Thanks, George, thank you so much for coming and putting on this meeting. Jyoti, great to be here with all of you. What is really refreshing to see is actually what public opinion is, as opposed to what we're told public opinion is. I think you mentioned already the role the media has to play. I'm not going to recapitulate everything you've said about imperialism. I think that's the key to understanding this, as so many conflicts in Iraq. I don't think there's anything natural about the fact that there are 8 billionaires in the world who own between them as much financial wealth and have as much power, more power, than half the planet's population, 3.5, 4 billion people. It's the economic system that perpetuates that dictates most big decisions in our lives, from which schools are being shut down around us, which schools are good and bad, whether or not I can get my operation in a timely fashion on the NHS, and whether or not we're fighting certain wars here or there. Who is our enemy, who is our friend? What is a democracy and what isn't? Because of course it's not just Muslims, it's not just the Middle East. America is a global superpower that has abrogated itself the right to have an army which doesn't just have 1, 2, 3, 4 divisions, divides itself up according to the continents of the world. And it declares itself the right to patrol every coast, police every continent, accrue to itself the benefit of every resource, of every scrap of labour on the planet, because it's working people that produce all value. There's nothing natural that all of this wealth ends up in such a tiny number of hands, and that's really what we're fighting. But when it comes to this current conflict, it's really refreshing to see that actually when you say the emperor is wearing no clothes, when you say you don't agree with the war, when you think it's unjust, you're not alone. It's in fact a majority opinion. So it's wonderful that you can call a meeting and get a large number of people here to come and share that opinion, to declare our solidarity really with the people of Iran who are under this totally unjust, illegal, pressure. Not just in terms of this horrible assassination of someone who George, I think, quite rightly characterizes as a war hero, but the whole sanctions that Iran finds itself under, the whole illegal way that US unilaterally pulled out of a deal which had been brokered in order to actually stop those sanctions. Mass sanctions are a weapon of mass destruction. They were used against Iraq to devastating effect. I still remember very clearly Madeleine Albright, after years of these damaging sanctions, were killing literally hundreds of thousands, perhaps 500,000 Iraqi children. And she was asked the question, do you think this is a price worth paying? And she said, yes, it's a tough decision, but it's a price worth paying. It's perfectly all right for the United States, through its sanctions, through its economic wars, to destabilize countries, to change the governments. They don't just do it by saying this guy now. They doublespeak. The 1984 doublespeak is so apparent. And that's apparent in all their regime changes. But if you want a really flagrant example, Venezuela is very close to the United States. They talk about democracy. There's one president who is elected by a mass overwhelming mandate, Nicolas Maduro. He's someone who wants to nationalize and continue to nationalize the wealth of that country and give it to the people. So they actually turn up and appoint someone who has never even run for presidential election and say, this is the real president of your country, John Guaido. This is what we're dealing with. So, George, I want to support everything you said, Jyoti. Thank you so much for chairing the meeting. I think it's a fantastic event. I hope everyone here will get involved and try and build this as a movement, as an organization, because it's so desperately clear, that the BBC's got a mantra. It never admits that it's lying. It always talks about objectivity, it always talks about truth, it always talks about impartiality, but it's a very joined up and sophisticated war propaganda that makes me feel, when I listen to it, I'm so isolated, I'm all alone. It's just not the case. That's one of their great assets. I think the more we come together, build alternative media platforms, I think, George, your show, Mother of All Talk Shows, has been a revelation to me as I've started to watch it more and more and more, with fantastic interviews, fantastic information, a really excellent policy, with clearly bringing a platform, bringing lots of people together, with an understanding that the world doesn't have to be this way. That actually working people do have power to change things. And I just want to thank you for holding this meeting, and thank everyone for coming.